All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you will know, every weekend, typically on Saturdays, we try to make it a point to give you guys a running down or the goings on in entertainment, pop culture, if you will, by talking about the said things that happened over the course of the said week. And today we're going to be doing it on Sunday. So I know a little out of our norm, but without further ado, I want to be able to, welcome two, which is why we were a little delayed today. We have two hosts joining us today. First, I want to, welcome, our regular here, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. I'm back in the flesh, and we got a guest in the house today.
We have a
So,
guest in the house
yeah.
today, and surprise guest. So we were trying to get it all together and get them situated. So without further ado, I want to welcome good friend of mine, fellow moderator at Alter Reality Entertainment with many of the said shows that they do. He is the CEO, the lead guy for Critics. Let me bring him on, Mr. Klep. Napier, aka Klep. What's going on, man?
What's up, fellas? What's going on, man? Thank you for having me, man. This is fun. This is cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, reason why I wanted to, bring Klep on board is just like me, we like to talk all things, entertainment, and especially when we're talking about the goings on in film and TV and the like. So, a little
Hmm.
small event happened this week, gentlemen. A little small event known as New York Comic Con, small one, right? So, I wanted to, punt the ball over to you as our guest co-host this week, Klep, to talk about, some of the highlights for you that happened at this year's show. I wasn't able to make it, but I know you were there front and center. So go for it.
Oh, okay. See, I thought you were there. That's crazy. And I was wondering. I was like, how come I haven't seen Brandon? Because I
Right. Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
the first time we met was at New York Comic Con. I think,
It
like we had
was. Yeah.
crossed paths.
Yep.
Um, this year was. I mean, we always see it from a different perspective, from the customer. You know, because we're there for press. We're well, not monitoring, but we're in the press rooms. We're at the junkets. We're at the getting reserved seating at panels and that kind of thing. So from my perspective, I thought that it was a very different kind of experience this year go around. As watching how the fans were reacting, I was shocked. It wasn't as busy as it normally has been.
Interesting. Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, no, but I mean, not it wasn't a bad thing because we could move around a lot easier and move around a lot more. But I felt
Sure.
like the beginning of the week was a lot busier than the weekend. Saturday ended up getting flooded, but late in the day,
Okay.
whereas the con starts later during the week because people have work. It was a lot busier Friday. Thursday and Friday were pretty busy, and all the events, everything that was happening, were all jam packed into one day. So Friday was like jam packed with all the right like panels that everybody would want to go to, all the parties, everything was in the same day during the same hours. It was crazy. It was weird.
Okay. All right. And I mean, I know I was able to see a couple of snippets of things that went on, over the
Mm.
said show and things that broke and whether we're talking about, I think I saw something for Megan, 2.0.
Yeah.
They had Craven there and a couple of others. So, out of those, what were some said things that were highlights for you and some things that were announced that kind of blew you away?
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to the Bloom House. I had someone covering it for me, because
Okay.
I was doing Cross for Prime Video. I was doing that junket.
Okay.
But what I did find out was that they had another trailer for Wolfman. It was a brand new trailer that a lot of people were excited about. It
Yeah, I
hasn't
saw it
been released.
drop. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then they did show they showed some new movie called Woman of the Yard, or Woman of the Yard,
Okay.
which I didn't really get a chance to see. Like, I wish that I could have seen that, because Blumhouse is my thing. I love the horror, but for the most part, it was just the stuff that we already know about, like Black Phone 2, Megan 2.0 is coming out. There's another movie called Fear the Spotlight that's coming
Okay.
out, but
Okay.
they only show footage from the first two, I believe.
All right.
But yeah, it was good to see people were there. Like they had people come out. There weren't a lot of stars that came out for that panel. Jason Blum was in the building, of course, and a lot of
Yeah.
the directors came out. But for the most part, it was just Jason Blum just hyping up. I also did hear that there's supposed to be 10 new releases just in 2025.
Jeez.
Yeah, from from Blumhouse. Yeah, from Blumhouse, man. Shout out to them because they are a working machine and they don't stop. There was also another movie that they showed the trailer for called the Drop, which you said you saw, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and like I said, I saw like brief things here and there. Like as I said, with Craven the Hunter, obviously, that's coming, and
No,
then they
there's a film called Drop.
drop. Oh,
That's what I
okay.
thought. That's what I thought you meant when you said you
Oh, no,
saw
no, no,
Drop.
no,
Like,
no, 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 no. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
there's a Blumhouse movie called Drop, and the synopsis is pretty kind of crazy, man. It's so it follows this lady who's on a date. She has her kids being watched, and she gets an airdrop to her phone, and the airdrop shows that there's surveillance on everything she's got going on, where she is, where her kids are, and there's a person communicating with her, telling her and making her do things. And one of the things that she has to do is kill her date or her children die.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that
That's
I'm
crazy.
excited about that. I didn't, like I said, I didn't get to see it. I just heard the synopsis. My people reported back. They were telling me all about it, and immediately I was like, I'm on board with whatever that is. Because Jason Blum and the Blumhouse people, they tend to do this thing where they're using our modern time to strike fear, and
Right.
I'm all for it. I was a fan of Afraid. I know a lot of people didn't even see that movie, but I was okay with Afraid. I didn't mind it.
Okay. All right. And then lastly, getting into, you teased it, at the top when you were talking about, just overall things that were going on at the show. Um, Outside of myself and maybe a few others that I've had on the show, we talk about, and people don't really think about this, like the nightlife portion or the after hours,
Mm,
if you will, of a con. So I know you were talking about the parties just now. What were some
yeah.
things that were fun that you had a chance to participate in or to do?
So I did something that I've never done in all my years at New York Comic Con. Was I made it a point on purpose to go to as many of the events as I could,
Okay.
just to kind of do that check-in, meet and greet, kind of see what everybody was doing. So I ended up going to 3 parties Friday
Okay.
night.
All right.
I spent like an
Yeah.
hour or so at I spent like an hour or so at each one, and I ended at Fandom.
Okay.
And this year I could tell you, right? And you
Hmm.
missed out, Brandon. I'm sorry, you missed out, bro. But this was definitely like the most swag out Comic Con that I've been to in a long time. When I tell you
Really?
that I got a haul, dude. I'm gonna do a separate video just so
Okay.
you can see the haul of things that I got while I was at the con and going to all these parties. We went to Thrill Joy, which is it's based off one of the gentlemen. I can't even remember his name. I apologize. One of the gentlemen from Funko who branched off and did his own thing. He has his own vinyl pops sort of called Thrill Joy. They had a big presence there, and they wanted to like make their launch really big. So they did a party. That was the first party. It was a rooftop party that I went to. Before that one, sorry, I went to Whatnot slash the teamed up with Marvel. They did a party, and they were giving out tote bags like that you could make on the spot. They were making like the heat press. They had a couple of designs that you could choose and put it on the heat press. And on the back, it would say Marvel's logos and all that stuff. And then on the other side, you could put whatever you wanted on one side. So they were giving those out at their party. I heard the X-Men. I left early, so I heard that the voice cast of X-Men came through later on, like during that night. But it was a good little party for before they came through before that. And then going to the Killjoy one, man, listen, that's when they brought out this. I didn't even know what they were giving. I heard there was supposed to be things, but we didn't know. We were just hanging out, rooftop party, all these little finger foods and things. They had open bars and all that. And then on our way out to leave, we were like, let's go to Fandom. This is a little kind of bougie. Let's go to Fandom and see, what's going on there and be around it. No, it was real bougie, dude. Like it it was more casual, felt real businessy more than
Okay.
what you know.
Yeah, I
It wasn't
understand
a
what you're saying.
Comic-Con. It
Yeah,
wasn't a
yeah,
Comic-Con party. It was a mixer.
yeah.
It was more of a
I got
mixer.
you. I got you.
So so we left, and as we were walking out, they give us this giant, you know, those Comic-Con bags that people wear on their back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was that size, but it had handles and it had Thrill Joy on it. And inside, they gave us all a vinyl, one of their vinyl pops. And their vinyl pops are like 3 times the size of a regular pop.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I got a chase, and they're all different random characters. People didn't know what they were getting. I got Blue Blue Moon Samurai.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not an anime guy either, so but I know you would probably know. I got that character. A lot of people got Freddy Krueger. Some people got the Crow. Other people got Skeletor. But dude, that was like the highlight of the night because we didn't expect to get anything like that. But they gave us vinyl Funko Pops, or I mean Thrill Joy Pops, or whatever they're called. And that was cool. And then we got to the fandom party, and fandom was, just as dope as it always is. They had a really cool DJ there. Zandra, I think her name was. She killed it. They had arcades in there. They had a Universal Studios photo booth where you could pick a scene from a Universal film and use it as the backdrop. It was really cool, man. But yeah, the parties were pretty cool. They were pretty dope. Not gonna hold you.
Okay. All right. Well, and speaking to that, I know you were saying that there was some rooftop, I guess one had like a rooftop component to their
Yeah,
party
that was
where
a Killjoy
everything
one.
was. How was the
Yeah.
weather? Because I feel like New York is always hit or miss because of when it's located during the year. That sometimes you come across a warm October and sometimes you come across a really chilly October. So I know that could be kind of problematic.
It was a warm October. It only got cold in the morning.
Okay,
Like
got you.
the mornings were cold, but by nighttime it was like a decent 55,
Okay,
60.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't
That's
too
perfect
cold because
drinking weather.
we walked literally everywhere, so it wasn't bad at all. The only time we didn't walk was when I went to the Hasbro breakfast on Saturday.
oh
Um
wow.
yeah, and the Hasbro breakfast was far. That thing was like 10 blocks away. So we
Okay,
had we had the cab. We had the cab. It wasn't that it was cold. It was like just far. A lot of the stuff off site wasn't that. It wasn't that close. I think the closest party was the Whatnot party, and then after that, Killjoy, and then I'm thrilled. Killjoy, Thrilljoy, and then fandom was damn it. It was in Times Square.
mm, okay,
Yeah, it was
all
a
right.
Hard Rock in Times Square, pretty much. So,
Got you, got you. No,
so
I mean I remember there was a prior year. Like I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was. Well, you can't quote me. It was definitely before the. I want to say it was before the pandemic. Maybe it wasn't, but I went to a screening of show you how long ago this was.
mm.
Screening of what's the horror film that it's like that you have Germans and like it's I guess it's a war film, like a period piece, but they have like ghouls and all these other things. Brain farting on the name of the film. But
Who's
anyway,
in it?
uh, uh um Kurt Russell's son Wyatt, he was one of the soldiers.
Oh
I'm brain
man,
farting on what it is. I'll remember what
yeah,
it
I don't
is.
know his work like that yet.
Oh, over oh gosh. Anyway, it was one of the AMC theaters, and it wasn't anywhere near um new in the what is it, the Javits Center at all. So I
Yeah,
feel you on what you were talking about, where you have to actually make a trip out of going to. I had to actually make a trip out
yeah,
of going to that screening because it was for sure in like the town squarish area that we had to go versus where you are. But Spielman, I don't believe you had a chance to go to the New York Comic Con. Did you have any questions for Klep? About any other
I just
component?
want Clip to know that we gonna get it next time we have one. I think that
yeah,
this time next year we should definitely plan to have an appearance at the Comic Con in New York. We can
yeah.
take the Excella up. We don't even have to take the plane anymore. We can take the Excella.
True,
We can
true.
do like Benny Boom and Carlito at the end of Carlito's Way and go through the Grand Central, do the whole thing. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I did see some good things about New York Comic Con, and That's the big one. Like we always talk about. People talk about San Diego a lot, but the OG, the original institution,
I
is the
mean,
New
Mm.
people
York
sleep
Comic
on New
Con.
York for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the only
Overlord.
thing.
Overlord is the name of the film, by the way. I
What,
couldn't. It was
what?
bothering me. Overlord.
Oh, okay. I remember that one. I remember. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I remember when they were pushing that. I think that was 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had a screening for that. I do remember that. I think the only bad rap that New York Comic Con gets is the distance of everything. Because at San Diego, everything is like right there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're not walking. And the weather's beautiful, so it's like you want to just hang out and chill on a corner and do nothing and watch people geek out. But New York is tough because yeah, you're going like 6, 7 blocks. It's so much traffic. There's so many people. It's
And
you
I was gonna
know.
say,
But
let's
that's
be
part of the
honest. It's the
charm,
nature.
though.
I was gonna say, let's be honest. It's the nature of New York. I guess they just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
expect that people are just gonna just walk to wherever they're gonna need to go. But all right, cool. So switching gears. Thanks so much, for that breakdown, Klep. We're gonna get into our next portion of our show, and I wanted to go down trailer alley, if you will. So I'll pull it up here. I know over this past week we did have a look at a upcoming horror film that's coming out on Shutter, known as a Black Cab. Just to give you guys, for those that are not aware of this release, I want to give some details about it. And again, this dropped this past Thursday. The film follows a couple who crosses paths with a seemingly jovial, cab driver, which we see here with Nick Frost. Of course, he looks far more sinister here, who diverts them to a, remote haunted road, revealing sinister motives and true intentions. So, for either one of you, and then I'll give my, 2 cents, if you will. What were your thoughts on what you saw from, this trailer? And I tell you what, I'll punt it over to you, Klep, since you're our guest host. If you, had a chance to see the trailer.
Um, like honestly, I'm gonna say shout out to the people who cut the trailer.
Yes.
Shout out to the editor, the score, because if it wasn't for that, I would have just thought it was Nick Frost being Nick Frost because he's being his like jolly self, but everything around it makes it creepy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because like the tone and I was just like, oh wow, this is interesting. I want to see just how sinister he gets. um I think it's going to take for me to see some real violence for me to be like, whoa, he went there. But there's always something creepy about like when a comedian goes dark. I think I enjoy that at least. So
Yes.
I'm
I'm glad you
interested. I'm
brought that
curious.
up. Yeah.
I'm
I'm
curious.
glad you brought that up, but I will punt it over to you next, Spillman, and then I'll share. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely saw it, and I was like, "Hey, ain't that the dude from all the funny movies with the zombies and
Yeah.
stuff?" But he was not funny
Yeah.
in this trailer. He didn't look funny at all.
Yeah.
He was very scary, very intense. But I will say, from what I understand, the black cabs are. You hail those cabs. Why do they have on the trailer your ride has arrived? Like you're looking at an app. That's not how you get a black cab. At least that's how I
Mm,
remember when I went to London. But that's just me being nitpicky. I think it's just because that's how
mm.
people associate cabs now. You look at your phone, your Uber is here. Then you say, goodbye, friends. I got to go. Or you could lie. That's what I like to do. But, I got to go, man. My Uber's outside. Then I'll sit outside for 10 minutes because I actually don't want to be there no more. I'll just be like, all right, I got to go. That's a life hack for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you ever want to get out of a place, like, my Uber's here and it's $20 to cancel. I'm sorry. I need to go. So that's a gem for you. What you think of the trailer, Brandon? Oh, you muted
Oh,
yourself, B.
can't hear you. You
You
muted.
muted yourself.
Here we go. Here we go. Sorry. Spillman's life hacks aside, to comment further on what you were saying, Klep, I was going to mention that same thing, is that it's always interesting to see when people that we see that are normally in comedic roles, a lot of times switching gears and doing dramatic parts, or doing, far more, I I guess you can say roles that are kind of in whether it's the horror realm or the thriller realm. Because I'm trying to think of Robert Williams when what was it?
Mhm.
The name of that
1
film,
hour photo.
1 hour
1 hour
photo.
photo.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you. And talking about how it seems, and maybe I'm just biased, but it just seems like when we're talking about comedians, they have that gear to be able to switch over to that far easier than someone who's doing it the opposite way from going to drama to comedy.
Mhm.
So I am really fascinated on what I've seen. I mean, the most that I've seen with Nick Frost doing dramatic parts was uh gosh, and this is I guess it's just my brain farting day, I guess. But there was an action series that he did, a martial arts action series that he had on AMC that unfortunately got canceled far sooner than its time.
Mhm.
Klep, you probably know what I'm talking about. Brain farting on the name of the series right now,
I don't
but
I don't I honestly I don't know what kind of role did he play in that? When you said action
oh, he was
martial arts, I'm
kind
like,
of he had an opportunity to do a lot of action in that series.
really?
Because there was when they were talking about because I actually had them on the show before, ironically at New York Comic Con, as a matter of fact, and talking about this series, and I'll pull it up when I get an opportunity, but in that series, he has a chance to do not just comedy, but he has a chance to do drama as well as action, like a lot of martial arts action. And when the choreographer was talking about it, when I interviewed them at New York Comic Con, they said that they try to cater a lot of the action to the body type and the movement of their actors.
Mhm.
So, they would try to determine what style of martial arts a certain character would use based on who they were as a person or what their capabilities were that they observed. So that part of it was very interesting, and he had parts in that where he wasn't funny at all. It was very dramatic and he had to be very emotional, and I was like, oh, okay, you showing me something that I didn't know that you kind of had. So and
Huh.
looking at this too, it's interesting to see him, take that turn as well. As I said, when I posted it online, is that it looks intriguing, and far oftentimes than not, we both know this clap and spill is that, as you said, sometimes things can be edited very well,
Oh
and
yeah.
it can be edited so
Rotated
well that
to
the
best
movie
angle.
looks, yeah, the movie can look far better than
Mm.
what the actual finished product. Um, Resident Evil, old franchise.
Oh man.
Just saying. Sorry, that was pretty bad. But anyway, but yes, there are instances of that where editing can very much be a film's friend in making something look far better than what it is. And this is no slight. I'm sorry. I apologize, Resident Evil franchise. I like the first.
He
I
don't
like
like
the first
Mila.
film. I like the first film, and then
He
beyond
don't
that, I
like
feel like
Mila.
it just goes downhill slowly but surely. But be that as it
Yeah.
may, um, comes out on November 8th. I'm very much looking forward to it. I don't know what your guys' excitement level is, with this film,
Oh,
but
I'm totally excited. I want to see Nick
Yeah.
Frost doing all kinds of sinister things. The way
Yeah.
that he got that button, that Matt Lauer button in the front seat is crazy, though. That Matt Lauer button is crazy. I didn't know that you could have that in the car. I thought you could only get that installed in your business office or something. I didn't know that you could get one of those in your car. Ooh.
all right.
Yeah.
So
I'm
go
here for
ahead.
the creepy too, man. I have to give anything horror a chance. It could look completely terrible. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? If it's horrible, I'll say it's horrible, but I'll give it a chance.
For sure. For sure. All right. So we're gonna dive into our next story, and this is actually in our film and TV end, and it's lo and behold a film that many of us, everyone here is, I'm sure, a fan of, and that's of course if we're talking to MCU and the Spider-Man franchise, and we get news this week, and this is
Hmm.
via appearance on a podcast in which Holland talks about getting a draft of the script and saying that it's excellent, but needs work. So let me go into a little more detail about that. As I said, he was on a podcast this past week on the Rich Roll podcast and stated that he had read a draft of the upcoming fourth installment in the Spider-Man franchise, which of course is a part of the MCU. And he was quoted as saying one of the things that that we have, that you have with Marvel is that your film is a small cog in a small machine. He goes on to say, this machine has got to keep running. You have to make sure that it can fit into that timeline at the right time to benefit the bigger picture. That's one of the challenges that we're facing. The time in which we need to get that done is a tall order, but definitely achievable with the people we have working on it right now. But again, he said that it's as it stands, it's excellent from what he's seen, and it just needs a little bit of work. So, you hear this, guys. Klep spills. What are your thoughts on what Tom has to say about the upcoming installment, the highly anticipated installment, if you will, of the Spider-Man franchise? And I'll punt it over to you, Klep. Go ahead as our guest.
Um, listen. I as excited as I am, I'm an MCU guy. I'm a Marvel guy to the death, and I've been on the ride since 2008 and before that. You know what I mean? But
Same.
I I get so sick of the speculative talk. I hate that us as fans like to set ourselves up to believe one thing or think this, think that, because at the end of the day, they're going to make the movie that they want to make.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've been in this game long enough. We've talked about film long enough to know that when these little tidbits get dropped, it's on purpose. it's it's on, like, I don't feel like Tom really knows what he knows or will find out everything. I don't think that they're giving him the play by play. I think that, yeah, there are people working on it. Um, he probably heard an idea or so, probably read first draft maybe. And yeah, of course it's gonna need work because the movie's not supposed to be done for quite some time. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about his remarks. All I know is that I have some ideas of where I think they might go or where they probably should go, but that's just my opinion. You know what I mean? This is supposed to drop between the Avenger films, right? Like
From what I understand, yes. Yeah. So it's
After
going to
Doom,
have some
Civil War.
multiverse, of course, probably element to it to kind of fit into that based on what his comments are. But yeah.
I don't want them to go back to what they did in 3. I honestly think they need to move forward with Spider-Man because at this point the characters become stagnant and they need to move forward with this character instead of restricting him to follow this narrative that he's talking about. They're so sacred about. Um, with of course building off of what's to come. And
Sure.
since it's supposed to drop after Doom, before Secret War, it would only make sense to introduce that symbiote with Peter Parker.
Yeah, for sure. Spillman?
You know,
Um, well, we're interested. I understand what Marvel's doing. Sometimes I feel like since the debut of the black costume and the symbiote, even concept into the Spider-Man comic books, I felt like they've used it too heavily. It's
mm,
kind of like Joker and Batman movies. It's like you just gonna keep seeing this character because that's what people seem to like. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. They did have a little bit of the Eddie
Symbiote.
Venom suit on that last Spider-Man movie. So maybe that's just a tease of something. Um, so
oh
we'll see.
yeah,
I wonder if they'll take the story more so as the suit just comes from space some kind of way, like they did in Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, or if they'll do a more comics correct version where it's from a Secret Wars type of thing where he picks it up. But they've already technically made it into the universe, so they might just say it's there, deal with it. Like, I think it'll just be that simple. So
Yeah.
we'll see from there. It might be interesting if they go the route of the Ultimate Spider-Man, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think that that's like the third option of all the origins for the symbiotes or whatnot. But I'm interested in it. Excellent, but needs work. We'll see. Like Klep said, when they say that, you start being like, okay, what's going on here? Why don't you just tell me the script's good. You don't have to put
Yeah.
that extra little ellipses. That's like, this is like a text from your uncle. It's like, why you putting these
Mm.
ellipses between everything, Unc? Stop doing that. You're making it unnecessarily dramatic. Why are you doing this to us? Don't be
Yep.
dramatic.
Yep.
What you think,
Yep.
B?
I mean, I'll say this, and many of you guys have touched on a lot of what my feelings are on it, and that's just the fact that when we're talking about, of course, he's not going to say that it's bad, right? Because
Mm.
he's invested in that character and he's invested in, this franchise, and he doesn't want to shoot himself in the foot, so to speak, by, bad mouthing where the production is, because it doesn't really help him at all either. Um, so there's that part of it. So you have this PC part of it of him saying, "Oh, well, it's good, but we're still, trying to iron out the kinks or iron out, any of the issues that we have." So I mean, you have that component of it. There is something to be said about what he's saying, though, in that when we're talking about the MCU is a far different beast than any other franchise. That not only are you dealing with continuity of individual films, you're dealing with continuity of other franchises.
Yeah.
uh they have to all kind of make sense and mesh, so that's a whole other challenge than just trying to worry about just your own finite franchise. So there is something to be said about that. I'll just be happy when they can finally bring this multiverse to a close, where then they can start, honestly starting off, I guess, with a clear slate of sorts and be able to focus in on their individual franchises. And don't get me wrong, of course, they're going to be connected in some small ways, but I feel like the franchises are so intertwined now because of the overall theme of the multiverse that you're kind of tying the arms of your writers of what you're able to do and what you're not able to do, because you're trying to get to this finish line of Secret Wars, right? So
Mm.
there's so many different components and said things about it that are fascinating. And I will say, speaking of what you were saying, Spillman, about the symbiote, they jumped through too many hoops. They tried to do so much just to get Eddie into the MCU, even if it was for a moment. There's no way that symbiote that got left behind is not going to play into
There's no
him
way.
somehow being a symbiote.
It's
Like
just
Yeah.
they're not going to. They
Yeah.
went through too much trouble of trying to
Yeah.
have that happen, of crossing him over to the MCU just to get
Yeah.
that piece of the MCU, or that piece of the symbiote into the MCU. Because I know it was actually, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, Klep, you may know, is
Yeah.
that it was supposed to go far differently. Like Venom was actually supposed to be, in No Way Home in a bigger capacity. He was actually supposed to be one of the villains that was there in the
Mhm.
big battle. And they decided to pull it back and pull back and not utilize him.
Yeah.
So the fact that they still managed to even have the symbiote piece in there, like I said, they had to jump through too many hoops of having, this overall dual partnership that they have with Sony just to be able
Mhm.
to get the symbiote over in the MCU to
Yeah.
not use it.
And it's a little confusing too, because in the new trailer, if you've seen the last ride, that bartender, that symbiote piece, that bar is in, and
In
this
the
is
new
supposed
movie,
to be.
I know that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that too.
It's
That
That's bad. That's just, you know what I'm
still
saying?
kind of,
Exactly. Exactly.
I was
yeah.
gonna say I
It's
feel bad now because you now also have Noel too, which makes things even messier. I'm like, why did you do that?
yeah.
Why? So,
Yeah. I
but
it's yeah.
go ahead.
The only thing I think that could really save this is if, well, this is supposed to be the last Venom. Let's just bring Tom Holland in this Venom and pass the symbiote over. Let's just do that. Let's get rid of this. let's just get to the point.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you. Um, but
Or maybe we could
uh,
stop making movies based on corporate mergers and just actually make movies
oh
based
boy,
on good stories. I mean,
Yeah.
I know one day we could just write stories about movies, but I feel like that's the overarching story of the the movie business now. It seems like everybody just making a movie because they bought something, and not
Yeah.
because oh, this is a passion project that people really would like to see on the screen. It's just like,
But that's how they save face for the fans, because they make it look less business. If it's like, yeah, we're doing this for you, we're putting these characters together, even though we have our differences. But it's like, you guys are holding on to this stuff like mine, 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 mine. Let's see what we can do, but you can't have it because it's mine. And it's just like so written on the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. But with that being said, we're gonna wrap up this portion of it. But before we go, I want to punt it over to Klep. Klep, thanks so much for hopping on and not only talking about
Okay.
New York Comic Con, but talking about some of our said stories here on This Week in Pop Culture. Before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you, man?
All right, yo, you guys can find me everywhere on every platform. It's Klep CX everywhere, or you could just search Klep Napier. I'll come up everywhere. IMDb, LinkedIn, wherever. My website, wearecritics.com. That's where we talk about movie news, television news, pop culture, and more. Again, that's wearecritics.com, or you can follow Critics on Facebook or We Are Critics on all other social media. And that's just about it. And I'll be recapping myself about the horror section of New York Comic Con with my horror expert MC Ghoul. She was there covering all the good Shutter stuff, Blumhouse stuff for me at New York Comic Con at Extreme Podcast. You guys can find that on iTunes and on Spotify. And we also Extreme Podcast on Instagram. So look out for that.
All right, that's what's up. That's what's up. So once again, want to thank Klep for hopping on. Gotta have you on back at some other time,
Yeah,
Klep.
man. Yeah, definitely. This is fun.
But other than that, we're going to jump into our sports. So we want to bid you adieu, Klep. But all right, so getting into our sports spills of going into some of the things that went down this week. We had the Hall of Fame. We also had a major college coach announce his retirement. So you guys are probably wondering in which I am referencing. So first, I will put up what we have here. Let me see if I can get it up here. What we have here with some of our finalists, some of our folks that have made it into the Hall of Fame, the class of 2024, and also the announced retirement of Tony Bennett. So let me get that up as well for you guys. Hold on one second here. Second, folks. All right, there we go. Get it up here now. So just to hop into some of the information regarding the Hall of Fame, as I mentioned, has happened over the past week, and in terms of this 2024 class, it included Vince Carter, Chauncey Billups, Michael Cooper, Simone Augustus, and Doug Collins, Jerry West, just to name a few. And just to give you guys some, and to not include them as well, it also included four super fans. They also included an induction of four super fans, which I don't have pictured here, in the form of Billy Crystal, Alan Horowitz, Spike Lee, and Jack Nicholson. There are a bunch of impressive names among the folks listed here. Of course, we have Chauncey Billups, we have Vince Carter, Michael Cooper, as I said, Walter Davis, Bo Ryan, Charles Smith, Simone Augustus, Dick Barnett, Harley Redden, Michelle Timms, Doug Collins, Herb Simon, and Jerry West. Spillman, an impressive list of names here, especially in terms of what their resumes entail. We want to hop into that first. What were your thoughts on those that were inducted for this year's class?
I think that this is an interesting class because the WNBA player is, I think, hands down the best out of these players for what they're going in the hall for, which is interesting. I think Simone Augustin is arguably one of the 5 to 10 best WNBA players of all times. It's interesting to me. Vince Carter has had a very interesting career. I think if he didn't stay in the league as long as he did, if he didn't play for as many seasons,
He would
I'm
have been
not
in
sure
Dusty
that
School.
I'm not sure he would have made that to this list, bro. I'm not
Mm.
sure. He had a great first 5 years. I'm not going to take away his first 5 years, but so much of his career was coming off the bench and just being a glue guy, kind of. Chauncey obviously has the more playoff success of these two guys. And it's just interesting. There's not that many guys that in this class to me that are like no doubt Hall of Famers. Like Michael Cooper, he's been eligible for our lifetime almost. Like it's interesting to see this class. This might be one of the weaker classes we've had in a long time because there've been so many greats. Well, how do you feel about this class?
So I'll say this: there are, I'm not going to be as down on it as you may be, in that there are a lot of impressive names, on this list, and then I feel like a lot of underrated ones. I do understand what you're saying about Vince Carter in terms of his overall body of work with his career. He had some monster, years in that first, portion of his career. And then I feel like after he got traded to the New Jersey Nets, it started to slowly, falter away. And I don't
Hmm.
think that's, but here's the thing. I don't think that that's more based on his talent. I think that that was more based on the team that they had. And it was just it was only but so much to go around with that squad that you had. I mean, you had what? You had Jason Kidd, you had Kenyon Martin, you had Richard Jefferson uh, um, uh, at that time, when he was just, coming into his career. I know a lot of people kind of like, flack on Jefferson, in his latter years when he was playing with LeBron James, but in his earlier years, he was a problem. A lot of people kind of forget
No,
that
no, for sure, no doubt. I will definitely
in
give
his
him
in his
that.
early years when he was in the earlier part of his career, he was a monster. And he could get you, you know 15 to 20 points easy, around that time in the earlier parts of his career when he had that athleticism. I mean, he became more of a specialist later on in his career, but like in those early years where he was just like, he was catching everything. He was piking everything. He was
Oh yeah,
he
for
was
sure.
piking everything. But he also had, he had a mid range game. He was able to shoot. He could do all of that. So I think it was more so, as I said, because of that, because there was only but so much to go around in terms of all the pieces that they had on that New Jersey team.
Hmm.
That he, wasn't as much of a monster on that team that he could have been. Um, so like, and it's unfortunate too because I feel like he's one of those players that I feel rested on his laurels a lot in terms of relying on his athleticism. And don't get me wrong, he's one of the most athletic players that we've ever had in our career. And his career wouldn't have lasted as long as if
As he
he
did if he
didn't
kept
still.
playing that way, for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like if it wasn't because he's so gifted athletically, his career probably would have ended sooner if it wasn't for the fact that he has that gifted athleticism that he has. Even going into the latter parts of his career, because there were still things that he was doing even at the tail end where he shouldn't have been able to do
Oh, for
athletically.
sure,
He was
for
still
sure.
doing it. He was still doing it at all the way up till his retirement. So, in the same vein that we have like with Westbrook, one of the most athletic players that we've ever had. And he continues, to surprise people with his athleticism, despite, all the years and, mileage that he has on his body
Oh yeah.
playing basketball. It's really impressive. So, but
Where do
he's
you
one of
put
those.
where do you put Carter all time in shooting guards?
Ooh, that's tricky. Um, top top 15, maybe
Top 15?
top 15.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. You got Mike, Kobe, D Wade.
Right.
That's the first four. Mike, Kobe, D Wade. And then I guess you
Allen
would
Iverson. You have Allen
Iverson,
Iverson, man. That's what I'm saying.
Iverson,
Like,
Reggie Miller.
yeah,
But
there's some
then after
players that
them, I don't know. There's some guys that like. Is Clay better than him all time? You think? Because I give him over
I
Clay.
would say yes. I would say yes, and the only reason why I say yes is because again, you talked about it at the top when we were discussing him and his overall body of work. Yeah, he has all the titles. You know, he's a player that demonstrated that he could play both sides of the floor. I mean, people forget before Clay had his, major injury, he was a player that you could rely upon to defend your best wing player and also score for you.
For
So,
sure.
that versatility to be able to do that and still give you 20 and to still be able to shoot over 40% at the 3-point line. Yeah, I mean, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. Carter demonstrated that, as he progressed, that he had a reliable jump shot. Because I'll never forget that playoff game when he was a franchise player for the Toronto Raptors and he played against the 76ers and I think he hit like
Like
I can't
seven
remember.
threes or something.
Yeah, I remember watching that game. But yes, yeah, Ray, we are talking shooting guards because I was saying that Vince I see in the top 15. He's
Top
probably
15.
he's probably within that 10 to 15 range in terms of
Yeah.
players, and that will fluctuate in terms of how I'm feeling on the day. But I mean, there's so there I can't put him in front of the players that you just named, Spillman, and a few
You
others
can't
I
put him
can't
in front
remember.
of T Mac. You can't put him
I
in front
can't,
of
I
you
can't,
can't put him in front of like Ray Allen. You couldn't put him in front of Ray.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Dominic
uh
Wilkins couldn't put him in front of
see,
him. Yeah. It's
see,
starting to get
see?
it don't matter. I hate when people say this about basketball, Ray, or sports in general. He could only do one thing. If you can't stop the one thing, then it doesn't matter. If Shaq's whole game is dunking on people and can't no people stop him from dunking, then we don't need to learn no other skills. Like if you just knew how to rob banks and you could just go in the bank and get $1 million every day. Clyde, exactly. Clyde is better than Vince Carter. Yes. It's a lot of guys better than Vince. That's why it's just
That
surprising.
is a horrible example, but okay.
No, it's not. It's not a horrible example. If you could get away with it every single time, if you could get away, why would you get a real job if you could just go and rob a
Oh
bank
my
every
God,
single time
that
you
is a
needed
horrible
money?
example.
I'm just saying that's what Shaq was doing. He was robbing the bank every time. They knew he was coming in there to rob it, but they couldn't do nothing. It's just like beast mode. If you know you give him the ball, he's gonna score a touchdown, or you give him the ball, he's gonna dunk on somebody. Why does he need to learn how to do an in and out crossover with the hezzy move with the three?
I
Who
will put that
cares?
out there. We do not condone Robin.
No, we don't condone robbing a bank. No, sir. No, sir. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if
And he
that
has
was the
something like
goal,
5
Clyde is
Drexler. He's up there
definitely better
too.
than Vince.
He's
For
in there.
sure. For sure.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Michael Cooper finally getting there. I feel like Michael Cooper definitely shouldn't have been there. Like as a Laker fan, I love Michael Cooper, but that's like some of the '60s Celtics getting in a Hall of Fame. It's like they were just on a good team. They could have been that same player on any team. I'm not about to believe. Like I don't think is Big Shot Bob in the Hall of Fame.
I believe
I don't
so.
think
Don't
Robert
quote
Ory's in
me.
the Hall of Fame. But Michael Cooper is Robert Ory. Disclaimer. Yeah, we don't
Yes,
condone
disclaimer.
We
Thank
don't
you. Thank
condone
you, Ray.
felonious activities,
Disclaimer.
ladies and gentlemen.
Please.
We do not condone. The good people here at Movers and Shakers Unlimited are law-abiding citizens, and any of the opinions expressed
Oh my
herein
gosh.
are only of
Um,
those who hold the opinions.
but no, going into Vince Carter, I feel like he is one of those what ifs that we have. I mean, Grant Hill is up there too. That during that time of Jordan and the time following that, after that Bulls era, there were a lot of people looking around of okay, who's the next heir apparent, so to speak, who's the next in line, and I feel even aside from Kobe, that Vince had the potential to be that. And I think it's more so just his demeanor that he wasn't that. Like, can you imagine? Because
He
I
went to
feel like
graduation. He's
I
the
feel
graduation guy. Would Kobe go to that graduation?
like feel like athletically, and this is a hot take. I feel some people want to disagree with me, but hopefully some do. Is that he was more athletically gifted than Kobe Bryant was. Kobe
No,
Bryant
no,
had
100%. I agree with that.
better footwork. And don't get me wrong, he had some athleticism too, but he had way better fundamentals and footwork than Vince did. But could you imagine where Vince's game could have gone if he had that type of mentality that Kobe had, where he was just going to like go for the jugular and kill you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, he was competitive, but he wasn't that level of insane competitive spirit
Win
that
at any
Kobe had.
cost, for sure.
And I feel like if he had that type of killer mentality like that, he probably could have been, right there with Jordan and had that same type of career. But I just feel like he kind of rested on his laurels because he knew he was so athletically gifted that we never really got to see what he was truly, truly capable of if he really put his mind to it. So, I don't know. Uh,
I think
we'll talk.
I agree with you. I think, again, Vince is a great player. You know, obviously we are, we're talking about him in this way. But, if you would have gone back to the year 2001 and told me that Vince Carter will be in the Hall of Fame, I would be like, of course Vince Carter's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He did the greatest play in the history of basketball. He jumped over a 7-foot dude in the Olympics just because. He didn't do it in an all-star game. He didn't
And if
ask the
you hear the
tall gentleman,
story
hey,
and what I was about to say, if you hear the story behind that, it's such a ridiculous story. It involved like a bet among the USA players as to why he did that. And just to do that, just because you're doing some stupid like game among your own teammates, that's wild to me. Like you said, just cause he could do it.
just cuz.
Just
And
cause.
also, he didn't realize that he jumped over the
And he
dude
did it.
because he
Right.
said, he said, no, I didn't know. I just,
Right.
I was just up there.
It's like
But
what is it? It's like that anime stuff. Like we have a Dragon Ball. It's like I didn't realize that I did that. I kind of
I,
underestimated
I,
how
how strong I am. I didn't
strong
know
I
that I
am.
could do this. But that's
Right.
definitely, I think that, if a play can get you into a thing, you can't have the guy who jumped over somebody in a game and a game of consequence, because that was near the gold medal game. It's in the Olympics. It's the whole world is watching. He didn't do it at no gym somewhere in the middle of nowhere. NBC, ABC, Sky, every single sports organization in the world was at that game to watch it, and he jumped over that Frenchman in a way that like separated Vince Carter in the minds of people. Like I'm sitting here talking about his game in the end, and he wasn't this, he wasn't that, but he did jump over a dude in the Olympics in front of the world, and like
Yeah.
it's the great. Like I still think it's the greatest dunk of all time. Oh no, the dude that he got dunked on was supposed to go to the Knicks, and he dunked on him so hard that he ended his NBA career before it started. Vince Carter choked this man's career in the
Took his
cradle.
heart. Took his
Just
heart.
took his heart, took
He's
his
like, dang,
ability to make
this is
money.
what he's like,
The
this is
man
what
had to go to
I'm doing.
therapy. He said,
This is
I
what I'm
can't go over there
doing.
with those Americans. Those
Nah, I'm
Americans
good.
are too real. I'm good. But just
But
he jumped over that dude.
okay,
Oh,
we were talking about Vince Carter a whole bunch. I want to be able to get into a few of the others here.
yeah, let's
I
get
wanted
on
to
it.
get into. I feel like Chauncey Billups. I'm so happy, for Chauncey Billups and that he got his flowers, so to speak, because I feel like he's one of the most underrated point guards that we've had in terms of. And I know he's a journeyman. I know he's been, across many teams and many, many folks, of course, will associate him with the Pistons, but he had a stint, if memory serves, with the Nuggets. He had, stints with other teams too. And he's sometimes I feel when you're a journeyman like that, people kind of sleep on you. But let's not forget that he was, a part of that team that dismantled the dynasty known as, those 3-time Lakers. Like he was a part of that. He was a part of that team that dismantled that dynasty. Where at that point, after that year, yeah, your Lakersville, that dismantled that team so much so, talking about taking your heart, right? So much so that they basically blew up the team after that.
They blew up the team in July.
Right. They
Blew the
blew up the
team up
team.
in July.
And let us not forget that was a team that also had, I don't care how old they were,
4 Hall
also
of
had Karl
Famers.
Malone, also
Yeah.
had Gary Payton. Like it was a squad. Even with the old heads that you had with them on the tail ends of their career, it was still a squad.
I'm gonna just say this, ladies and gentlemen. You notice I haven't had anything to say about Chauncey because
Right.
Chauncey.
Mr.
I
Big
can't say
Shot.
I
Mr.
can't I
Big
can't
Shot.
say nothing. I can't say nothing about anybody that stole a championship from my beloved Lakers, and they definitely stole it. Sure, they punched us in the face to steal it. They didn't like sneak in the night. They stole it from us, looking us square in the eye. We didn't have nothing for them, for
Nothing.
sure. But
Nothing.
I do think that to Ray's point earlier, if we would have did the one-dimensional offensive thing and just said, "All right, Shaq, let's see if you could beat this guy who's supposedly defensive player in the world, but is a foot shorter than you. Let's see if you could do that." We don't care about Kobe with all these people who are equal or about where his level is. Let's see what you can do, big fella. That's why we got you here. And I'm really sad that Chauncey made it because now Brandon gets to gloat about the Lakers losing in 2004 in a really sad situation. But we got back and we've won 3 championships since then. So
Yeah.
um,
I mean,
you know,
it took nearly a decade before Kobe came back and won it for y'all. So
it was 6 years. It was six
I
years.
mean,
Or four
same the
years,
next
actually.
decade.
It
The
was
next
four
decade.
years because that was 2004 and he won in 2009. That's 4 years. So 5
You sure
years.
was it for some reason I'm thinking it was 2010, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, that was the second championship that we won in that run, because they went back to
Uh,
back. They
oh
beat
right,
Dwight and
I'm
them the
thinking of the
first
Heat.
year.
I'm thinking of Dallas and the Heat. You are
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It kind of gets
Yes.
fuzzy there. But, it is what it is. Chauncey was great. I feel like he's in the Hall of Fame now because he beat that Lakers team. If he didn't beat 4 Hall of Famers, it would have just been a championship. And they've been like,
That's fair.
that might be the
That's
most
fair.
valuable championship in all of the NBA history. To be like, no,
That's
man, we beat.
fair.
It's like that one and the Cavs in 2016 might be the 2 most
Yeah.
valuable championships ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I feel like even minimum that probably would have gotten even if LeBron never won any other championship, that
Yeah,
would have the fact that he won that would have gotten him in the Hall of Fame. I mean, right
yeah.
now, even without that championship, and I'll give props where props are due,
I
he would
mean,
be a
he's gonna
Hall of
go.
Famer
Yeah, first
regardless.
ballot. First ballot. Yeah.
But say if he didn't
That's
win
really what
anything with the Heat,
solidified it. Yeah, that's when he got in the conversation.
I'm saying even without the Heat, say if he only won, he had the 10 appearances, right, and never won any other finals, but he won that one with the against the Warriors, that Warriors team, he still would have gotten in.
Hmm.
Just by virtue of how impressive that was. So I'll give props where props are due. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's so many in here. I mean, you have Doug Collins. I mean, what is there to say about Jerry West?
Hmm.
You're saying that this is historically the first time that you have someone who's a three-time ballot getter, which is insane to me. That get inducted 3 times.
I mean, the
Uh,
man is the logo, though. I feel like the
he
logo
is
would
the
do something
logo.
like that.
He
It's
is
the
the logo,
logo.
understandably. But I'm just saying, I'm just saying how impressive it is, even
Yeah.
outside of being the logo, to be inducted 3 times. So, do you have any additional thoughts? I know you were commenting on some of the other
Uh,
ballot
you know,
that we have here in the
um,
show, Tim's, but there is something about what you were saying with some of the other ones where you know they are recognizable names, and you guys can let us know in the comments if there are some other ones that we didn't really talk enough about that you feel deserve their flowers as well, that are among these those that got inducted in this year's class that wanted to be able to highlight further. You can let us know, but yeah, I mean, congratulations to everybody that did get inducted. But in terms of talking about Vince Carter, love to see that he's in there. A great what if story, as I said, when we're talking about Chauncey Billups. Very underrated, like I said, point guard, but I feel like he's just now getting his due, and I feel like that's because of him being a journeyman and not really a specific franchise player. I mean, yes, he did have that tenure with the Pistons that is memorable among his career, but he has played for other teams also. Yeah, did you have any other final thoughts, Spillman, before we
Um,
talk about Tony Bennett?
no, I just again shout out to Augustus Simone. Simone Augustus, she's nice. Shout out to everybody else. Oh, also they put the lethal shooter in there. So that just lets you know that content is king. And if you can make the content, eventually you'll go get somewhere with it. So shout outs to lethal shooters.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. So I know we talked about it a little bit before. One part of our main story that we had today was not only talking about those that were inducted into the 2024 class for the NBA Hall of Fame, but also, talking about the UVA coach Tony Bennett. If you are not familiar with Tony Bennett, just to give you guys just a smidget of his resume, if you will. As I say, as it says there in the title, he announced his retirement on Friday. But in terms of his resume, he posted a 364 win, 136 loss record at UVA, guiding the Cavs to the 2019 NCAA championship. He has 2 ACC tournament titles, 6 ACC regular season championships, and 10 NCAA tournament appearances. He's been named the ACC Coach of the Year in 2014, 2015, 2018, and 2019. And he is a 3-time National Coach of the Year, amassing an overall record of 433 wins and 169 losses over 18 seasons, because those additional wins that are accumulated there reflect his resume with Washington State from 2007 to 2009, which was 69 and 33. Which, with that team, he also had a pair of NCAA tournament appearances. Now, there are a couple of facets as to why Bennett decided to retire, and among those that were determined to be some of those reasons, even though he kind of touches on it in his retirement, is the NIL rules, and also the transfer portal rules that are happening in college basketball, which have become big talking points when we're talking about college basketball. And if you aren't familiar with the NIL, that's dealing with name, image, and likeness when we're talking about our college players, and how they're able to get deals regarding that a facet of those elements that can be used in promoting the sport. Spillman, what are your thoughts on Bennett deciding to retire from college basketball, and retiring from UVA?
I think he's done everything he can at UVA. Like maybe they could get a couple more like good guys there, but obviously, yeah, I get people in that school, and that's like one of the more prestigious educational schools in the country, and it's hard to get players there. But really, he raised the cachet of the basketball there. Before he showed up, really, UVA was only really known for Ralph Sampson. Um, so for them to get, a lot of NBA players that played and came through there and went on to do great things is a good thing. We're happy to see that. Obviously, he's one of the great ACC coaches. Yeah, Simone Augustus, man. Simone Augustus, one of the goats. She's a, she might be the best player in that draft class. I think she is the best player in that draft class, which is interesting. But again, Tony Bennett was a great coach. I like his focus on shooting. He seems to be a shooting whisperer, and has lots of people who can shoot the ball at all 3 levels, and so that's just good coaching to me. I think he's done a great job over the years. Just making everything go. So I don't know. How do you feel about his career?
So, I mean, and just in going off of what he has managed to accomplish, in his career, not just within his conference, but across the board, nationwide, nationally, with a lot of his programs. And I feel like it kind of gets people sleep on it a lot, but how difficult it is to go from one program to another, and to not only bring that winning attitude and that winning culture, starting with one program and then being able to step in at another program and continue that momentum. That's not an easy thing to do. I feel like that not enough credit is being placed upon that. But just the idea, it's just unfortunate, just in the context of where college basketball is right now, and some of the rules that are coming into play with college basketball. As I said, when we're talking about the NIL rules and we're talking about the transfer portal rules, and I feel like years ago, college basketball was far simpler in terms of what could be done and how it operated. But now that you have the prospect of someone that if you can think of, for those of you out there, if you could think about this, you're trying very hard to be able to put together your team and to recruit for your team. And even if you get the best player, the best possible player that is the best player in the country, 95% of the time, I want to say, kind of in this climate that we're looking at, they're not, even after all of that work that you put in, they're not going to stay there for the majority of that time. They're probably going to be one and done, and then you're going to have to start from scratch all over again. You're going to have to start that process all over again. Additionally, now that you have that element with the NIL rules, and then you have agents and all these other parties in play that are playing a role in the lives of your players, that can be very distracting, and they can kind of get in the way of what you're trying to do, with your program and the players that you're recruiting. So there's so many that I feel like the landscape of college basketball is far messier now. And I mean, I understand why, because now they're trying to provide college athletes opportunity to benefit from some of that revenue. But in doing so, it's resulting in all these other issues that come into play when we're talking about agents and other corporations and all these other things that getting into sponsorships and all those things that are there to provide college athletes an opportunity to benefit from that revenue. But it kind of muddles the waters when we're talking about a school or educational atmosphere where the school is maybe not necessarily fitted to be able to deal with a lot of that extra stuff that that you're going to deal with. And if a college coach is trying to recruit a lot of these said players that they're trying to get in their team, they're going to have to navigate through all of those things, which years ago, in the older in the years before a lot of this stuff, they didn't have to really do a lot of that. So Spillman, what are your thoughts?
Well, to me, I think that the NIL is a needed change to the equation for how they um, deal with talent at this level. If you were a physics student and you had come up with some new kind of thing that the university was used to promote their physics department, you would most definitely be paid by the university for that for the privilege of using your ideas and research. So I think that the NIL has made a thing about it, but I think that, they're missing the one little step where the schools have to pay these players to use their likenesses and to represent them positively, because, there is a big difference. Like, the schools would not sell as much merchandise if they didn't have all these great players playing there. Um, you know, um, I appreciate Tony Bennett for his work, but you know, to me, I understand that the game changes now that they have the new NIL thing. But to me, a lot of the coaches, like, Tony is a younger man. He's not the youngest man in the world, but for him to leave the sport and NIL be a big part of the calculus, to me seems like he was exploiting the players. I hate to say it that way. If there was a NBA coach who said, I don't like that they're getting so many. serial contracts, so they're making money on this, or they're making money on that. I can't work with these people if they're going to be making money. It seems like it's disingenuous. While I do understand the nature of amateurism in college sports historically, they wasn't making billions of dollars like they are now. So to be running $1 billion organization, or to have millions of dollars, because the UVA athletic department probably makes millions of dollars a year. So
Yeah, they do. They do.
easily millions of dollars, and in merch alone, not just on TV deals and stuff. So I don't know. I just feel like, you know, um, if you was in a thing stealing with people, or not even to say another crazy example like that, but just they need to pay the players, and if you can't stick around for paying the players, it seems like you were taking advantage of them. That makes me a little sad.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't think that is necessarily that. I don't feel like he necessarily has an issue with players being paid. I feel like it's more a result of everything that comes with that. So like if you're recruiting a player and you're getting all of this you're having to jump through all of these obstacles because a another party, an agent, whoever, sponsorship, whatever the case may be, is kind of hampering, your ability to be able to reach a player or to recruit the player, or they're asking for a they're asking for a lot of these, I guess, requests in order to be able, or accommodations to be able to contact, to get to a player. That can be kind of frustrating. I don't think that it's necessarily that he has an issue with them being paid, but I think that maybe the all the other parties that are involved in that process is making it far more frustrating in terms of the recruiting process, if that makes sense.
That makes sense
Um,
to me. I understand that, but I just feel like if
and
you
if
want
you're
the
trying to
top, if
compete,
you want the top player in the country, you're going to have to go through some things to do it. That's the way in any kind of market.
it is, it
If
is,
you want the top researcher in the country, you got to pay them and give them all their lab stuff. If you want the best, I don't know, politician in the country, you got to pay for certain things. Like, people have, you want the best musicians in the world, you got to have their green room. They don't want M&Ms that's green. So if you got to pick them green M&Ms out, you got to pick them green M&Ms out if you want to have that person to come to your university. So I understand what you're saying, but to me, it just doesn't make sense. It's just like, if if it's truly about the basketball and stuff, you can find a way to make it work. And maybe it's not as easy at a school like Virginia. And that is one thing I do understand. Like, he's going to be, there might be some years where Virginia's the best team in the ACC, but
and
most
see, if
years
you're
they're
trying to
not.
be competitive, that's what I'm saying. If you're trying to be
And I
competitive
understand that.
and you have your peers who are, doing all
Duke,
of those things, and
yeah.
you're not willing to do a lot of those things. And let's be honest, when we're talking about a lot of these elements of money that's at stake, I'm sure that there are some integrity related things that, things get kind of gray and kind of what is it, kind of can get kind of sketchy when we're talking about a lot of these probably sponsorship deals and these deals that happen with a lot of these upper echelon players. So you know I don't know. I feel like I said, I don't think that he necessarily has a issue with the players being paid, but I feel like it's everything that comes with that, and then the prospect then of also trying to compete against other teams that may be okay with operating in that gray, or may be okay with not being, having as much integrity and not, going the extra mile and doing things that, are kind of sketchy. So, um, and then, I mean, like I said, we didn't even get into the prospect of, what we have with professional sports. We were just talking about the Hall of Fame, right? And a lot of those players these days, you're not even going to be able to keep for a whole year. So, you're going through all of that trouble, right? You're jumping through all these hoops, and then you're not even going to have them for the majority of their career. You're only going to have them for a year. And then you're going to have to go through that process again with another player that you're only going to have for another year. So like, I can understand how the vicious cycle of that can kind of be frustrating. And then also the prospect of the transfer portal and those players not even sticking around yourself, because you want to have that continuity of having players that understand your culture and can continue that culture and can kind of be additional coaches for you, right? As the veterans, they can be additional coaches for you in bringing up, the new players that come in. But if you continuously are having new players and you have to continuously restart that process of trying to establish that culture, that can be kind of daunting and tiring after a while. So I mean, I get it. I definitely do get it. So, I wish him luck in whatever his next endeavor is. But yeah, it's unfortunate that due to, and this is what's being reported, due to the nature of what college basketball looks like now, that he, decided that he wanted to retire. Really is.
I guess that part of it rubs me wrong. It rubbed me wrong when they said like, um, other coaches have been like, "Oh, the NIL's changing the game," da, da, da. And I get that. I get that. But it's just like, these are changes that need to happen. Like, just because I signed with a coach doesn't mean that that coach works with me. That doesn't mean that I should stay at that. Like, anyone else can leave a school for any other reason they want to. To keep the athletes there seems not fair. And I get what you're saying, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, I wish that the players and the people who actually make it go had a little bit more say in it. But it is what it is. There'll be a new coach at UVA. Maybe they can raise the cachet, but he is the greatest coach in the history of the University of Virginia basketball, and maybe football. He might be the greatest coach in history. Um, Put a bunch of guys in the league, guys that are starters to this day. Um, Malcolm Brogdon just got traded or just signed with the Wizards, so he's back home, back in that neighborhood. So, I feel like it just is what it is.
I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you. So, all right. So that is going to wrap up this edition of This Week in Pulp Culture. I want to, as we had at the top, again, thank Klep for hopping on and talking about, not just New York Comic Con, but some of our film and TV and trailer stuff. And of course, thanking Spills as well. Spills, can you tell folks where they can find you, man?
All right, you can find El Banco Robber online at Instagram at Truly Spill. And we can talk about more of my plans to do things that we shouldn't necessarily do, but they make for funny podcast topics. So yeah.
Again, talking about disclaimers and what we do not condone here. We're the Shakers Unlimited. I will repeat that again. Uh, uh, anyway, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also a co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me on X at Brandon Choi ENT, and also Brandon Choi _ ENT on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon, y'all. Peace.
5 stars.